Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time on a Wednesday evening. Hope everybody's having a great night so far. We are going to talk about some philosophical questions regarding this Titans team. A lot of different questions that need to be answered, but as they work their way through general manager interviews and search for their next offensive coordinator, there's a lot of different areas that this team needs to kind of have a come to football Jesus moment with. So we're going to talk about those things tonight, whether Derrick Henry is helping or hindering what it is that the Titans need to end up turning into. It's an interesting question that I know a lot of you have been asking. We got some good Greg Cosell analysis on that later tonight. Before we get started, though, need you guys to share this show on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet the show. Bottom right-hand corner of your screen, real easy to find. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share now to public. That's in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, like Mark Dalton or Karen O'Keefe. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, like Christine Lind or Brock Kraft, throw a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't done so already, we would be grateful for you doing so, and you can always tell a friend to do the same. Come hang out with us Sunday through Thursday night on the Primetime Show. Now that more of you are here, we'll go ahead and get this thing rolling, get into some of these Titans offseason needs. Welcome into A to Z Sports Primetime from the Superbook Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising, and I am proud, as always, to be presented to you by Two Rivers Ford. Two Rivers Ford offers you 2023 model year Fords in stock and available right now at the dealership in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. The Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage, the official real estate agent of the Nashville Predators, can get you the intel edge you need to succeed at GaryAshton.com. Superbook Sports, download the Superbook app. Bet on things like the Grizzlies against the Spurs. Producer Reed is already losing money tonight. You can make up for that. You can take the fight to Vegas at the Superbook Sports app. TrueMav Fitness, get your New Year's resolution underway with a new you and a new way to work out. TrueMathFitness.com for your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident. So we've talked about the checklist of what it is that the Titans need to accomplish this offseason. Find a GM, hire an offensive coordinator, rebuild the offensive line, focus on the quarterback situation, figure out the quarterback situation, rebuild the offensive line, and pay Big Jeff. Those 5 things are at the top of any list that you would formulate, no matter how it is that you choose to order them at this stage. But then there's the idea of what it is that the Titans are, what it is that the Titans have tried to be over the last couple of years and had varying amounts of success with, right? A physical, run-first football team. Which brings us to Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is under contract for one more season. Derrick Henry financially is not a problem by any stretch of the imagination, but for a team that's got a lot of different needs all over the place, his 4-year, $50 million deal, heading into the last season of it with a $16.3 million cap hit, is obviously the biggest that it has been for Derrick Henry on this new contract, and not an ideal situation if you're a team that needs a little financial flexibility. Now, it would still cost you $9 million to cut Derrick Henry, and that's not me advocating for it. I'm just kind of letting you know what the financials are. And for the next general manager, they'll have to figure out, okay, how much value do we want to assign to the running back position? And is this the guy that we want to continue to build around heading into 2023 and beyond? So let's start with the Two Rivers Ford take. Do you think Derrick Henry helps or hurts the Titans offense? And I want it phrased, that's a little harsher than I want it phrased. Do you think Derrick Henry, do you think the Titans are too married to Derrick Henry in their offense? Let's phrase it that way. Do you think the Titans are too married to Derrick Henry in their offense right now? I think that's probably the best version of the question, because there's no doubt that they are a better football team with Derrick Henry on the field, but there is a tendency, there's a tendency, I think, to, go out of your way to get Derrick Henry involved. Now, obviously, there's been plenty of reason for that over the course of the last couple of years. But I think that the idea that they can be too married to him at this stage in the game is a legitimate question to ask. It's your Two Rivers Ford take. As always, it is made possible by Two Rivers Ford. 2023 model year Fords available for you right now to go test drive. You can go to the dealership in Mount Juliet. You can check out the Explorer, like I drive, the F-150, Bronco Sport, Mustang Mach-E, and so many others. Two Rivers Ford always sells new non-specialty Fords below MSRP, and they have the best financing around. You'll always enjoy the Two Rivers Ford customer experience because it's fast, easy, and fun. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. So can there be a tendency to be too married to Derrick Henry in the offense? Casey Davis says, what offense? Well, the offense that you've got right now. With a better quarterback and on O-line, Derrick would be a weapon. Yes, I think that's, Derrick is already a weapon, right? Derrick would be a more effective weapon if he had more help around him. There's no question. Jose says, Henry is a Hall of Famer, but even then you need to be more balanced. The lack of balance was terrible this year. And that, I think, is a fair assessment, right? You can have Derrick Henry. You can keep using Derrick Henry, but you ultimately need a more balanced attack. That was something that Greg Cosell and myself were talking about 4 or 5 hours ago, earlier this afternoon on the latest episode of The Install.
And I know this might seem blasphemous to many, and he's obviously been a great, great player, but when all's said and done, does Derrick Henry in some way put a little bit of a ball and chain around moving forward? Because as long as Derrick Henry is your feature back, is the idea that you have to give him 330, 350 carries a year. Do you have to do that?
And certainly, I mean, that
I don't, by the way, I don't know the answer to these questions.
No, but these are the questions that everybody needs to be asking.
And they need to figure it out. You and I, we're just a bunch of guys sitting around talking like we know what we're talking about. But, they need to figure that out. And these are questions that need to be asked and answered.
The difference is one of us actually knows what they're talking about. Well, just sitting over here asking the question.
But you know what I'm saying. I mean,
absolutely.
Is in a league in which I think there's two parts to this. Many would say, smart people would say there's many different ways to win, which there are. Okay. But then smart people would also say it is a league where your passing game needs to be at whether it's the foundation or whether it's the driving force in games needs to be a big factor.
Yeah.
And that if you can't throw the ball proactively and even reactively, because what everybody says, third down, the money down is the quarterback's down. You got to be able to throw the ball on third down. If you can't do that with any kind of consistency, no matter how good your back is, are you going at some point to stop offensively? Is your offense going to, run up against a brick wall?
Well, I mean, in the case of them, they led the league in 3 and outs. So I think the answer is right there in front of them. I mean, they throw away a lot of first downs with these Derrick Henry negative plays. And then they end up in third and long situations for their passing game too often at this point.
Keep one thing in mind, and maybe this playoff game, and again, they played with Josh Dobbs, who, by the way, I thought acquitted himself extremely well in his 2 starts.
Agreed.
He's a whole different conversation, but they had 28 first down plays versus the Jaguars. Henry carried the ball on 21 of them, Buck, and he gained 59 yards with a long run of 9 yards, which came in the fourth quarter. And 14 of those 21 first down runs came out of 12 or 13 personnel, meaning 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends. And on those 14 runs out of multiple tight end personnel, he only gained 37 yards.
Titans football till the end.
It relates to what we're talking about. Is
absolutely.
Is that your approach? Are you saying we just have to execute better with better people, or are we saying that we need to kind of change our approach a little bit philosophically, because that's not really the way to produce points in this league right now?
Yeah. I mean, So it's a really tough stat, right? 59 yards on 21 plays is the definition of constipation. I think when you kind of talk about these things. Now, Derrick is still a productive player. There are still plenty of opportunities for Derrick Henry to make an impact in a game, but it is so hard to do it when everybody knows exactly what's going to happen every time he trots out onto the field. A to Z Sports Primetime is presented by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. GaryAshton.com is where you go for your dream address without the stress. The intel edge you need to succeed can be found at GaryAshton.com. So make sure you get that intel edge when you're selling your home, because it'll help you sell without any showings or staging, help you find your next home while the Nashville real estate market is red hot, help you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. GaryAshton.com, where all your favorite teams go. So trust the team that your favorite teams trust. GaryAshton.com. So, is the Titans offense too married to the idea of Derrick Henry and feeding him? Now, I think that Todd Downing, while he is obviously out of a job for a variety of different reasons, the offense dipped. It seems like they were looking to make a change for some time, and it felt like everybody around the building kind of knew what the vibes were. And I think to a certain extent, Mike Vrabel kind of gets a little bit of a pass because he fires Todd Downing, even though we know that Mike Vrabel very much wants Derrick Henry involved in the offense. So, you know, they can make the moves that they want, but if they end up being the same from a philosophical standpoint, you know, obviously you get what the top-down approach is. But I think that the next offensive coordinator needs to have the ability to kind of push back on Mike if Mike is too dependent on Derrick Henry in the offense. And, you know, whether or not that's possible is a dynamic that, you know, we can only have an answer to once we see how these things play out. But I do think that Derrick can still be a very, very high-level player. Obviously, he was this year, and look what he was running behind. But they need to find different ways to make it less predictable. Tendencies need to change at this point, and it can't be 24 first downs or 24 first down runs to 4 first down passes the way that it was on Saturday evening against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So as you look at the circumstances for the Tennessee Titans and kind of what the next step is, fair or foul, do you think that Titans offensive coordinator Todd Downing saw the writing on the wall as far as his firing is concerned? Let's talk about this together. Fair or foul? Did Todd Downing know the writing was on the wall about losing his job? You're going to hear a clip from Taylor Lewan, Josh Dobbs, and Will Compton here in just a second, right after I tell you that A to Z Sports Primetime is presented by Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is where you go to get in on all the action. Grizzlies and Spurs back in the second half, 82-73. You can still wager on all your favorite NBA games, NHL, NFL playoffs right around the corner. Superbook Sports is where you go. They'll match your first bet up to $1,000, win or lose, and they will allow you to take the fight to the best odds makers on the strip every time you open your Superbook Sports app. So download it today. Go to superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. So, do you think that Todd Downing knew the writing was on the wall? There's a Harry Titan Tough Well says he definitely had an idea after his arrest. Stephen King said if he didn't, he is blind. Fair, he knew it was coming, says Tracy Isbell. And a lot of that to the same effect. I think he knew, and it's fair, says B Birds. Who cares? He blows, says Lamar Daniels. Well, I do think it's interesting though from a player perspective, because obviously the news broke while Taylor and them were taping the latest episode of Bussin' with the Boys, and the reaction to this was pretty interesting to watch.
I just got a text from Dennis Kelly. Todd Downing and Keith Carter were fired. That might be
privileged information. Right
breaking
now.
information.
It's probably out
Keith
there.
Carter.
The O-line coach.
Wow.
What's the reaction? What's your reaction to that?
First initial thought.
I know you're literally on the spot.
I know I'm without any time to register any of that information. I think Todd is an incredibly good person. He's like awesome to be around. He's a great guy. You kind of could tell, like, obviously the whole season, everyone's calling for his head. Like, that writing was on the wall. There was a moment when I went out to a walk. I think it was right before you got there. I was literally in a poncho, and Todd was like, "Oh, you playing tight end?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna play tight end next year for you." And he goes, "Oh, you go into," and he recited some random high school football team. I think Todd knew he was going to be fired. I think so. I don't know. Heart goes out to him. Good family man, good dude. But damn, that's crazy.
So, it's interesting to hear the players' reaction on that, and Taylor telling that story, I think, is telling. Now, how long that was the case for him, to be determined. Obviously, the DUI situation does not help. But I do think that conversation was very insightful. And the episode, Dobbs is a really interesting guy, and I'm glad that they had him on at that point. Adrian Martinez says, "When are you getting back on the bus?" Well, probably not. Well, that's up to them first and foremost, but probably not until such time as Taylor gets cut. Because I would rather have an honest conversation with Taylor no longer a member of the team than, to have to tiptoe around some stuff for the sake of Taylor. So I think that, if and likely when Lawan gets cut from the Tennessee Titans, I think that would be a more beneficial time to put me on the podcast than right now while he's still technically a member of the Titans, because at that point we can have a better version of the discussion that we need to have. Daddy Hot Drops says he was already pretty honest about the line. Yeah, but it's different. It's different when you drop a media member in the middle of that with the player who's still on the team. Eric Alonso says, "Sounds scared to go on the bus, Buck." No, I've already done it twice. Those idiots don't scare me. Nothing about the bus is intimidating by any stretch of the imagination. But what I mean is, for his sake, it is better for his sake if he is no longer a member of the team, and then we can have a conversation about it. Because at that point, I'm not actively putting his job at risk in ways that, we'll see how it ends up. We'll see how it ends up for Taylor Lewan and the Tennessee Titans in the coming months. All right. So let's wrap things up with a question, because given that the Golden Globes were back in our lives last night, made us relive one of the best moments in pop culture history. The question that I want to ask you, is it too soon to joke about Will Smith smacking Chris Rock? Because some of that stuff is starting to resurface. Chris Rock's got a new comedy special, as a matter of fact, where it sounds like he's going to talk about this thing over a year later. Buck will go, producer Reed says, Buck will go back on when Will Compton responds to producer Reed's text. Some friction in the ranks, it would seem. Is it too soon to joke about Will Smith smacking Chris Rock, though? That is the question. We'll explain what we mean here in just a second, right after I tell you about TrueMav Fitness. Over 40 pounds down I am at this point because of the workouts that TrueMav Fitness has helped me with. I love their group sessions. I love their boot camp style classes. You can schedule one in the MindBody app. It's very convenient. It's very efficient. They get you in and out of there in 40 minutes. No workout is ever recycled or repeated. I am incredibly pleased with the results that I've seen as a product of going to TrueMav Fitness the last couple of months. And I know you will too, as you move into the new year with your New Year's resolutions at hand. So get started today. Check out any level of membership that they have, whether it's the group classes, personal training, or the open gym. TrueMav Fitness will help get you right and offers you your first workout free as a Middle Tennessee resident at TrueMavFitness.com. So go try it. You'll have a good time, I promise. So, is it too soon to joke about Chris Rock getting smacked? It's a really good line. Well done by Eddie Murphy. Not too soon. In fact, I think we were making jokes the night of. Big Dog says he slapped the demons out of him. He slapped a lot of things out of him. I'm looking forward to Chris Rock's comedy special. I think that's the first time that he's actually going to be able to talk about it. All right, that's going to do it for us tonight on the Primetime Show. Thank you guys, as always, for hanging out. Back at it tomorrow. We'll get into some offensive coordinator candidates and get you the latest on the GM search for our last Primetime Show of the week. Radio show tomorrow, going to be a lot of fun. For the rest of the week, we're obviously going to be talking about a lot of the NFL playoffs. Diana Rossini is going to be on the radio show Friday, so make sure that you are tuned in from 10 to 1 on 104.5 The Zone. And if you haven't already, check out the podcast for both the radio show, where we had our buddy Mike Giardi of the NFL Network on today talking OC candidates and a lot of other great stuff. A really troubling story about producer Robert and his, for Stephen King, who listens to the radio show, don't order pizza and deliver it to producer Robert's house because he tends to answer the door naked. If you want more information on that, if you are an Uber Eats driver in the Middle Tennessee area and you need a warning, go check out the podcast, particularly hour 2 today, and you will understand what we mean in very, very graphic detail. See you guys tomorrow on the radio show, if not one more time on A to Z Sports Primetime.